Climate change is one of the great national security issues that we face today. This administration, this president, not only is not taking climate change seriously, they're saying they don't believe it exists. This is a threat to the Navy, it's a threat to our military, but it's a threat to any human that happens to live on this earth. These are facts. Climate change is here, it's real, and it's accelerating. If we don't do something about climate change, and particular sea level rise, the largest Navy base in the world, Norfolk, Virginia, will go underwater, and it will go underwater within the lives of people alive today. So this is not theoretical. This is not something that may happen sometime out in the future. Our national security is threatened from these climate events. Our national security is threatened by the large waves of people fleeing. We already have internally displaced climate change refugees inside the United States from islands off the coast that have gone underwater where people have lived for generations. It is an existential threat to our planet, but it's also an existential threat to our national security and to our military. As these storms get more intense, as droughts and floods get more frequent and more intense, the Navy and Marines are the world's first responders. When I was secretary, we got a request for disaster relief or humanitarian assistance an average of once every 2 weeks. That's accelerating. And where you have these climate events, oftentimes you get instability. Instability can lead to chaos, and chaos can lead to conflict. Every 4 years, the Pentagon does this thing called the Quadrennial Defense Review. It's the year after a presidential election. Starting in 2005, under President George W. Bush, climate change was called out as a national security threat. In 2009, same thing. 2013, same thing. And now, suddenly, it's not. When I was secretary, the biggest goal I set was that by no later than 2020, at least half of all naval energy, afloat and ashore, would come from non-fossil fuel sources. Today, 2/3 of the energy on our bases comes from renewables, mainly solar and wind. At sea, in our ships and in our aircraft, about 40% comes from alternative sources, 17% from nuclear, the rest from biofuels. Pentagon is the largest user of fossil fuels on Earth. It uses 2% of all fossil fuels that come from the United States. And so if the Pentagon, and the Navy uses about 1/3 of that, if the Pentagon, the Navy, does make a change, it's going to be a huge change. And when you make that change in the Pentagon, or you make that change in one of the services, it spreads a lot to the civilian sector. We're going to have to leave fossil fuels in the ground because we have invented some things, solar, wind, all these other alternatives that are just far better and far less damaging to our planet. There ought to be a target date for net zero carbon emissions, period, for this country. And the military can be used to lead it. One of the things we know about climate change is that it's accelerating. And if we wait, any delay makes it harder. Any delay means that the world and the people in it is going to suffer more. But the next president coming in can accelerate these things. And it's not using the military for experimentation. It's giving the military an edge. It is doing what the military has always done, and that is being on the cutting edge, the front edge, the bleeding edge of technological change, so that the rest of the country can follow.